I missed my daughter's birthday because I fell asleep at my desk. That single moment shattered my illusion of success through hustle and set me on a path to discover what I now call ambitious laziness. What if I told you that working less could actually make you more successful? In the next few minutes, I'll show you the counterintuitive framework that tripled my productivity while giving me back 15 hours per week, and how you can implement it starting today, even if you're drowning in responsibilities. Have you ever noticed how society celebrates exhaustion as a badge of honor? The packed calendar, the late nights, the missed moments with loved ones, all justified in the name of ambition. We've created a culture where being busy isn't just expected, it's glorified, where the response, "I'm so swamped," earns more respect than "I'm well rested and focused." 6 months ago, my reality was a perfect reflection of this toxic ideal. My desk had transformed into a graveyard of empty coffee cups. My calendar resembled a game of Tetris where every possible space was filled with meetings, deadlines, and commitments. My relationships had deteriorated into a series of apologetic text messages. "Sorry, can't make it. Working late again. Rain check?" The people I claimed to care about most had become accustomed to my absence. On paper, everything looked impressive. I was climbing the corporate ladder at a pace that turned heads. The promotions came regularly, the recognition from leadership was constant, and my financial growth curve pointed steadily upward. By every external metric society uses to measure success, I was winning. Yet internally, I was collapsing under the weight of my own ambition, a silent implosion no one could see but me. The wake-up call wasn't gradual. It wasn't a gentle nudge or a quiet whisper telling me to slow down. It was the stark, undeniable reality of missing my daughter's birthday because I had fallen asleep at my desk after a 16-hour workday. I woke up disoriented with my phone showing 27 missed calls and text messages from a family that had, over time, stopped expecting me to show up. The disappointment in my daughter's voice when I finally called wasn't anger, it was resignation. She had learned not to count on me being there. This moment forced me to confront a harsh truth. The research is clear. Sustained overwork doesn't just damage your relationships, it literally damages your brain's decision-making centers. Scientists have documented how chronic stress physically alters the prefrontal cortex, the very region responsible for executive function and self-awareness. The cruel irony is that the more burned out you become, the less capable you are of recognizing your own burnout. It's a vicious neurological cycle that keeps you trapped. What makes this pattern so insidious is that we've internalized the belief that our value comes from constant productivity. Society has conditioned us to confuse motion with progress, busyness with effectiveness. We measure our worth by how depleted we feel at day's end, wearing exhaustion like a twisted badge of honor. But the most painful recognition wasn't that I was failing my family. It was realizing I was failing at the very ambitions that justified my absence. My work quality had begun a subtle but unmistakable decline. The creativity that once set me apart had vanished. My strategic thinking, once my professional calling card, had been replaced by reactive firefighting, jumping from one urgent crisis to another without ever addressing root causes. Desperate to understand what was happening, I did something radical. I meticulously analyzed my previous 3 months of work. I was tracked every hour, every task, every outcome. What I discovered shocked me. Only about 20% of my activities were actually moving the needle on my most important goals. The remaining 80% was noise masquerading as necessity. Meetings that produced no actionable outcomes, reports no one would truly read, responses to non-urgent emails that could have waited. The breaking point wasn't just emotional, it was mathematical. My approach to ambition wasn't just unsustainable, it was fundamentally ineffective. The data was clear. I wasn't struggling because I wasn't working hard enough. I was struggling because I was working wrong. To achieve what truly mattered, both professionally and personally, I needed to work less, not more. This realization led me to a counterintuitive question that would transform everything. What if the path to greater achievement wasn't through more effort, but through strategic restraint? What if the secret to unlocking my potential wasn't addition, but subtraction. That question led me to develop what I now call ambitious laziness, a framework that flies in the face of everything we've been conditioned to believe about productivity. What would happen if you deliberately worked fewer hours while achieving dramatically better results? After my wake-up call, I immersed myself in research, hunting for alternatives to the relentless grind culture I'd been trapped in. I found scattered references to concepts like strategic laziness and productive rest across academic papers and obscure productivity blogs. Intriguing pieces of a puzzle, but no cohesive system. The research confirmed what my burnout had taught me. Working more hours rarely produces better outcomes. In fact, it often creates the opposite effect. Implementing these countercultural ideas wasn't as simple as just deciding to work less. When I started setting boundaries, colleagues interpreted it as a lack of commitment. One executive actually pulled me aside to ask if I was still serious about my career. But the bigger challenge came from within. Years of productivity programming had left me with a guilt reflex whenever I wasn't visibly producing something. The first few times I left the office at a reasonable hour, I experienced actual anxiety symptoms, racing heart, intrusive thoughts about unfinished tasks, the constant urge to check my phone. Through trial and error, I gradually built what became the 6 pillars of ambitious laziness. The first pillar revolutionized my approach to time, non-negotiable time blocking for enjoyment and rest. Instead of scheduling work first and hoping for leftover time for life, which never materialized, I reversed the process. I designated blocks of what I called purple time, sacred hours for family, health, and recreation that I scheduled before any work commitments. This simple inversion meant work had to fit into the remaining hours, forcing me to be ruthlessly selective about what deserved my attention. The second pillar addressed how I approach projects, advanced preparation, and incremental progress. Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. By breaking large projects into tiny steps begun well before deadlines, I eliminated those adrenaline-fueled all-nighters that had become my norm. The surprising outcome was that my work quality actually improved through this iterative approach. Without the pressure of last-minute completion, I had space for refinement and creative thinking. Pillar 3 focused on the quality of my attention. Research on cognitive function shows that our brains aren't designed for the constant partial attention that defines modern work. I implemented a strict policy of either being fully engaged or fully disengaged. No more attending meetings while checking email or having family dinner with my laptop open just in case. This binary approach to presence dramatically increased both my work effectiveness and my enjoyment of leisure time. The fourth pillar required confronting my perfectionism, strategic delegation. I forced myself to distinguish between tasks only I could do versus those others could handle adequately or even better than me. This wasn't just about offloading work. It was about recognizing that my need to control every detail was actually limiting our team's collective potential. Pillar 5 introduced task batching to combat the hidden productivity killer, cognitive switching costs. Every time we shift between different types of tasks, we pay a mental tax that drains our energy and focus. By grouping similar activities like processing all communications in designated blocks, or running all errands in a single trip, I reclaimed hours of mental bandwidth previously lost to constant context switching. The sixth and most transformative pillar was values-based decision-making. By clarifying what truly mattered to me professionally and personally, I created a filtering mechanism for every potential commitment. This constraint forced ruthless selectivity about where I directed my limited energy and time, ensuring alignment between my daily actions and my actual priorities. The framework's power comes from its constraints. By deliberately limiting my available work time, I was compelled to focus exclusively on high-impact activities, the critical 20% that drives 80% of meaningful results. The outcome wasn't just better work-life balance, It was dramatically better work and a richer life. I've spent the last few minutes reflecting on what truly defines ambition in our hyper-connected world. The truth has been hiding in plain sight all along. The true measure of ambition isn't found in your calendar density or sleep deprivation statistics. It's measured in your impact to energy ratio. What you accomplish relative to what you expend. We've been trained to guard our time like the ultimate resource, but I've discovered something more precious: focused attention. When you fiercely protect your attention by designing your environment around your core values, something remarkable happens. Your results multiply while your stress dissolves, reading a virtuous cycle that conventional productivity wisdom never mentions. This journey has taught me that extraordinary achievement doesn't demand extraordinary effort. Instead, it requires extraordinary selectivity. The ambitious yet lazy approach isn't about doing more with less. It's about doing only what truly matters and walking away from everything else without apology. That's not laziness, that's wisdom.